As trade rumors continue to escalate for the Toronto Maple Leafs, a recent article has dropped a blockbuster trade between the Toronto Maple Leafs and a very surprising team. So I'm going to break down that exact article and discuss whether or not a trade for Mitch Marner is still on the table according to multiple reports. So I'll break all that down in this episode. But before we do, if you're part of the percentage or aren't subscribed, make sure to hit that button. It would mean the world to Darius and myself. But let's dive right into it. There's a lot to go over today. Obviously, we haven't been speaking about Mitch Marner trades as much for a couple of reasons. Obviously, he still has his no move clause. He has leverage in this situation a little bit, and it just seems like Brad Treliving wants to hold on to Mitch Marner. But some reports have come out, some rumors and articles are starting to circulate surrounding trades for the Toronto Maple Leafs, trades specifically now regarding Mitch Marner. And I want to drop this, I'll show you guys this article. So it says the Mitch Marner trade should still be on the table, and it basically goes on and discusses a bunch of different reasons as to why it should still be on the table, especially given, and the big point here is reported trade offer for Martin Necas of the Carolina Hurricanes proves why the Maple Leafs should trade Mitch Marner. It basically goes on to say that, and kind of uses the Martin Necas Carolina Hurricanes trade report and rumor. We know that the Carolina Hurricanes are, of course, shopping him, but it basically uses that to help give some insight on Mitch Marner's estimated value. And it says if we continue to use Winnipeg as an example in this mock trade, the Maple Leafs would need a top 6 winger back in Marner's role. And he basically goes on to say a trade framework around Cole Perfetti, a Mitch Marner trade framework around maybe even McGroarty, all those different guys, Ehlers, Perfetti, McGroarty, and a first, and then another first would be a trade that the Toronto Maple Leafs probably do 9 times out of 10. But we know, and the report basically came out that we know that in theory, that offer at the top from the Winnipeg Jets was given in an offer to the Carolina Hurricanes from Martin Necas, but they declined. So if Winnipeg were open to a similar package from Marner, if they're willing to give that up for Necas, then maybe it could work for the Toronto Maple Leafs to really sell Mitch Marner on the this offseason. And the main reason for all of this is because if the value is this high, and we've known for a while now, we don't really know what Mitch Marner's value is, but if his value is this high and anything close to Martin Necas, obviously there's some differences here, but if it's anything close to Martin Necas, then if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, you have to think about shopping him. And me and Darius have been on the side of the fence of you probably want to trade Mitch Marner to shake up the core four and all these things. Now, we've come around a little bit on the fact that Craig Berube, they have a new culture now with Craig Berube. They have a much better blue line, so they are positioned much better than they were in previous years to make a run in the playoffs. But still, if you're getting offers like this from Martin Necas, if you're the Carolina Hurricanes, if you're the Leafs, you look at that and you say, hey, maybe we step up to the dish, shop Mitch Marner a bit more. The biggest thing here, though, is that Mitch Marner has a no-move clause. So you're not going to be able to get as much value. You don't have nearly as much leverage, and that's probably the reason he's going to end up staying a Maple Leaf. But another article dropped saying this trade pitch has the Red Wings acquiring Maple Leaf star $65 million forward, obviously Mitch Marner. And I want to get your guys' opinions on this trade. Now, I don't think this one is super realistic, but it is a very interesting trade to discuss in the grand scheme of things. And again, we're a couple months out now from the season starting in October, and I think the Maple Leafs at this point, if they were to make a trade for Mitch Marner, it would be a bit of a surprise to us fans, mainly because, again, Mitch Marner has the no-move clause, and maybe they've been working and shopping him around, but there's no team that he's willing to go to as of yet. But what we do know is that there's still a couple of moving pieces for this team. You have Nick Robertson requested a trade. You have Mitch Marner, who his camp has come out and openly said that he is willing and trying to stay with the Toronto Maple Leafs at least this season and maybe test himself in unrestricted free agency. But like we've discussed on this channel multiple times, the nightmare scenario at this point for the Toronto Maple Leafs is, hey, he comes, he plays this season, he has a great year, 100-point year, the Leafs get knocked or bounce in the first or second round, and then he leaves in free agency to a different team like Vegas for nothing, and then the Leafs are stuck with, yes, you get some cap relief, but then you're stuck with no asset retained for Mitch Marner here. But obviously, this one has him being sent, this article, to the Detroit Red Wings, and this is a very interesting deal here, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. So it's Mitch Marner for Lucas Raymond and a couple of other players and a 2025 second round pick. You have Berggren and you have, of course, Wallander here. Now, this one is super interesting. So obviously this would be a blockbuster trade, like I discussed in the intro, and there's a lot of moving pieces here, and that's why I don't think it's super likely to happen, but it's definitely an interesting thing. We've discussed Mitch Marner going to the Detroit Red Wings, in the past, and it does make some sense if you are really both sides, but again, I don't know if the Leafs at this point want to, but the Red Wings get their bona fide superstar forward in Mitch Marner, who can come in and help them out and help the young core. Of course, we know that the Red Wings are kind of in a not a rebuild, but a retool-ish, and they're trying to build around the young core, quite frankly. But Toronto, you get Lucas Raymond, who I just mentioned was the highlight of this. He's a young asset who you are getting back, was just drafted in the COVID-shortened year in 2020, but similar to Mitch Marner, except obviously Mitch Marner's a UFA. He is an RFA and hasn't been able to come to terms on a contract extension with the Detroit Red Wings. So you're getting a disgruntled asset to a degree in Lucas Raymond here. And you're also getting a 24-year-old in Berggren, who was a fringe NHL player, not too exciting, but could add some depth to the team. And then, of course, you're getting William Wallander, who was the second-round pick in 2020. Second or third pair in the NHL. Like, I don't think this is enough if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yes, you're getting Lucas Raymond, and maybe you could convince Leafs fans that this would be a decent deal if you have a pending extension for Lucas Raymond in place. But even then, you're not getting a first-round pick even back for Mitch Marner. And we've discussed on this channel, Darius and myself, like, I think for the Toronto Maple Leafs to do this deal, you would... Lucas Raymond's a fine headliner to a degree, but you have to be getting at least 1 or 2 first-round picks back because you're really getting Lucas Raymond, who is a pending restricted free agent who hasn't been able to come to terms with his previous team or his current team at this point with the Detroit Red Wings. So he hasn't been able to come to terms with the Red Wings on a deal. You're getting him, who could be a disgruntled asset if he doesn't want to play in Toronto. And then you're getting a couple of fringe NHL guys who were drafted a few years ago and a second-round pick. You would need to get at least 1 or 2 first-round picks. Now, if you're doing Lucas Raymond plus 2 firsts plus those guys, maybe it makes some sense because at this point, I'm not convinced that Brad Treliving or the Toronto Maple Leafs want to trade Mitch Marner. And obviously, us fans, we wanted them to trade Mitch Marner simply because of the lack of success the Core 4 has had over the past 8 or so years. But if you're only getting this value out of it, and I prefer the article here of the Martin Nietzsche of the Carolina Hurricanes, like obviously you're not going to get McGroarty, Perfetti, Ehlers, and a first because that's just not how it's going to work, especially given the fact that there's no world where Mitch Marner waives his no-move clause to go to the Winnipeg Jets, and I'm not trying to say that him getting traded to the Jets is even a remote possibility because I don't think it is simply because of the no-move clause, but I do think that if that's the value you could get for a guy like Nietzsche, again, not the same situation. Mitch Marner has less leverage, or the Toronto Maple Leafs have less leverage. Sorry, Mitch Marner has more leverage because of his no-move clause, because of the Kyle Dubas masterclass a couple years ago. I think ultimately it would make sense for the Toronto Maple Leafs to shop him if the value is this high. But if it's this, I would much rather them keep it, even though it would be a blockbuster trade. It does make sense. I don't know if it makes sense for the Toronto Maple Leafs at this point, especially given the path that they've decided to take this offseason. We know they're going all in this year, next year, and maybe the year after that, depending on how the OEL contract and how he ages out, along with Chris Tanev, who's going to be with the Toronto Maple Leafs for a handful of seasons now, going forward 6 or so years. But he is going to age poorly after his 3rd year. The Maple Leafs bought in on the Chris Tanev deal. They paid the expensive price so that he can perform over the next couple years in hopes of winning a cup. They won't win a Stanley Cup with trading Mitch Marner for these players, even though Lucas Raymond, is a very, very good player. I just don't think it's what the Leafs need to get back, but it's going to be interesting to see. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on the trade. Let us know, do you think the Leafs are going to move Mitch Marner in this offseason, or will they keep him in hopes of making a cup run with their new found blue line core? Let us know. Thank you guys for watching.